Okay, so I've gone ahead already and downloaded some rigs. I got Donatello and Raphael from Agora. Like I said, use whatever rigs you guys want. Agora pretty much has rigs that are going to be good enough to facilitate this assignment. When you load your character in, obviously make sure you reference your characters. So make sure you go add reference, create reference, and then select your rig file, make sure it's unzipped, and then import it in. Don't just raw import the Maya file and then start animating, right? When you import some rigs, they might not have their textures hooked up. So what you can do, I'll just give a quick example of this. So what you can do is go into their group. Usually they'll have a group folder like this. So you can open their group here like this on the side, and then click on the geometry here, open that up, click on geometry again until you basically start seeing pieces of their body here, right? Let me go further. Oh, sorry, this is not mesh. You want to go into model geo. There we go. And then when you start selecting them, you should see the selection appear in your viewport, and that's where you know you're in the right spot. So what you can simply do, some rigs are pretty advanced, where if you apply one texture, it'll apply the rest of the textures, because usually they're in one source folder that they're referencing to. This one's not as sophisticated, so you can basically reconnect them one by one, which shouldn't take you that long. So for example, if I want to reconnect the body color, I would select the model body. I would go all the way to the right in the attribute editor, and then click on, basically looking for the model texture. Yeah, so this one here, body matte. And then the color is already plugged in. That means it's connected to a texture already. So you're going to click on that here, and then you can see this is the path that it's going to, but it's not in the right location because you've changed it, right? So you want to hit the folder. It's going to pop this open, and then you want to go to where your rig is, like where the folder is. So it's in my Z drive. I'm going to go Donatello, Donatello, source images. Sometimes they'll be called textures or something like that. And then you want to find basically the matching name of this. So body underscore Donatello.png. So this is belt, shell. It's probably in alphabetical order. Yes, it is. And then you can double click it, or you can just click open. And now when you click off, it's applied, right? Let's also do the lids. So that's like the headband, so we know who's who. And again, if you've clicked in the right spot, usually the attribute editor will open in the same exact area here. So you can just click on color again. Same idea. Go back to your rig. And for blocking, I don't require you to have the textures working, but I want you to figure it out before the end. If you need help, let me know and I can try to figure it out with you. Some rigs do require M-Gear, which I don't know if you guys have had that already, but it's a free plugin you can install in Maya, and then usually it'll fix the textures or certain modeling aspects that some characters require. And so we're looking for lids underscore Donatello, so you can just find L, lids, Donatello, there we go. Double click on that, click off, and you can see now he's purple, right? So I'll leave that the way it is, just because we don't really care too much about the textures at this point. I'm going to just start by creating a ground plane. So we have some ground to compare. And I don't know if you guys know this. If you guys press Alt and B, it'll actually cycle through your Maya backgrounds. You guys know about this? It's very useful for just changing the background color. So maybe if you're working with gray rigs, you don't want a gray background. You know what I mean? So this usually helps quite a bit. And further, you can, if you want, you can customize the color as well. But usually I recommend making it something that doesn't hurt your eyes. What I'll do here, I'll make this a bit smaller. Let's see if I can do that. So you can bring this in if you want as an image plane, but I usually just use it on the side here and then try to get the poses from there. So, I think I went too far. Go a bit forward. So I'm not going to copy this entire context here. I'm going to do something that conveys a little more story and treat it more like a hero shot. In film and games and TV, usually a hero shot is something that sells the main character in a certain way. Or if you're talking to a bunch of animators, usually a hero shot is something that's like, wow, that's a good demo reel shot if you get this looking good, right? Now, if you get to the point where you can turn any throwaway shot into a hero shot, then you're a good artist. So first, if we're looking at the staging here, basically we have the opponent not victim, on the right side. And then we have the main hero. I'm gonna say Sub-Zero's the hero here in the scene, and he's on the left side. So I don't like Donatello very much, so I'm gonna beat him up with Raphael.
Oh, man.
Yeah, sorry guys. If you guys don't know this, if you hold J and then click on a rotation, it'll actually snap to like the proper degrees, so you don't have to like manually rotate. So this will do, I believe it's 25 degrees if I remember correctly, something like that. Yeah, 50 something like, I can't remember the number. But basically you can pose out your characters. So I'm gonna have Raphael on the left side, and you basically just want to rotate him to be kind of in the right spot. So this is a shot setup, so you're basically trying to set up the character position, and then you adjust the camera based on the position to make it look close to your reference. And like I said, you want to enhance it as well, and also you want to show the full body. So I won't do the poses yet. I'm basically just positioning them in a space where I think I would have enough room to do everything. When you animate stuff, you want to kind of animate them somewhat together, just so that you don't accidentally are too short when you do the contact and that sort of thing, and also you're not too far away. Because generally, once you place the characters, you don't want to move these things at all. You can move it after the fact slightly, like during block-in, if you're just shy of something. But generally, once you place them, you want to kind of just use the rest of the body controls, okay? So say something like that. And basically, if we look at our reference, so it's going to be a kick and then contact into the second kick. The first kick is blocked, and then the second kick will knock him back. So since he's blocked here, I'm going to assume we're going to kick with this back leg from Raph here, the screen, or his right leg. So I'm going to do a pose where his left leg is forward, just so I have the room to go back and kick, okay? So I'll try to figure out a camera just to roughly place here. So I'm going to go panels, perspective, create a new camera. Make sure you rename your camera. This will save you a lot of trouble when you're going back and forth. Call it like cam or render cam. If you have multiple shots, you can make multiple cameras if you want, or you can just do a single keyframe over the next frame to like change the camera angle if you want. I'll leave that up to you guys. And let's see. There we go. So I'll basically frame the camera here. I'm going to adjust the focal length and just play with it just to kind of get something that I want. If you make it lower, then you're going to kind of get warped perspectives. Sometimes you want that just because if you want to show like the depth of something, you can see like it's kind of warping a little bit. This is good for certain stuff, for like stylization, but I wouldn't go below 25. And also for the higher end, probably not go over 90, but you can see like the difference here. So Donatello is taller, so this is going to be interesting. So I think for this, I'll probably do a 30, just because I want to show the depth of the characters here. And then what I'll do, so I don't mess with this camera, I'm going to go back to my perspective and then tear off a copy. And then now I have a little perspective viewport to use as a picker. Perfect. And then now to set up the camera, I want to make sure that my view like this is proper so that I can basically see the edges of the screen. And when you select your camera, you want to go into your attribute here, and you want to go down to display options. And then this film gate on the side, this little gray part, you probably know about this already, but make sure it's set to black, and then make sure the opacity is all the way to 1, okay? That'll just give you the black bars on the side. As well, before you officially start, you want to go into your render settings and make sure it's set to the render cam that you have, the renderable camera, and you want the image size to at least be 1080, okay? And then you can just click close. And finally, to set up the viewport, you want to make sure that you go to the viewport, turn off everything, because you only want to see polygons, right? No controllers, no nothing. And also you turn off the grid as well with this little button here, if you didn't know that already. And this one, for the perspective view, I would also do the same thing, turn off everything. But here you can just show your controllers, either NURBS curves. It might be controllers based on the rig you guys have, so you can turn this on as well. And then polygons. Everything else should be turned off. Does that make sense? Everyone got that? Okay, good. So I make this a little bigger. So I don't really have a first pose for Sub-Zero here, so I'm just gonna try to figure out something. So I'm gonna get up and do this just to figure it out. So if I'm kicking with my right leg, I want some sort of intention to show like how he's feeling. So maybe I can do something like this, or something a bit more angry and aggressive. So basically my weight will be on the front leg. So to start, go to frame 1. And again, I don't know how long the shot will be, so I'll try to keep it as short as possible so you guys can see the whole process. And if as I go, if you guys have questions, just call it out. But you want to make sure that there's not too much bend in the front leg here. So you want to, as you go, you want to check all sides of the camera so you can see the pose, make sure it's balanced, right? Just because it's not gameplay, you still want to make sure it's properly obeying body mechanics and on all views, okay? And then you can enhance the view in camera to make it look a bit better. And there's a few rig settings I usually like to turn on when I start posing. So, do you guys know about global controls already? I think I asked before. Usually they're turned on to 10, and basically what that means is that when you pose out the arms, let's say I move them here, and move them here. If you now rotate the chest or something like that, the arms don't move. So you don't have to counter animate the other body part. Usually you have it on the top arms and then also the head. So by default, this rig has it on. If it's on 0, I'll show you what that looks like. So if you pose the head and then you rotate the body, the head kind of follows exactly with it, versus if you have it off, or sorry, have it on, the head kind of keeps the posture it's in, right? This just saves you a lot of time, so you don't have to counter animate anything. Okay, everyone following so far? Yes? No? All right, so. And sometimes what I like to do as I'm posing is I'll select in my perspective view, and then I'll move the controller in the viewport, just so I'm moving it in the space that I'm looking at. And so since I'm leading with the front leg, and I want this to kind of be in anticipation, so like I was getting up and doing a pose for it, so I'm going to have my leg back. I'm going to have the front foot pointing forward, so I'm aiming at my target, and then I'm having some sort of like posture leaning forward a little bit. So almost like a semi-squash. And what you can do as well, to kind of make things easier for you guys, is if you select everything on your character and just create a display layer for it, and then do the same for your other character. This is the one. There you go. And you can just call it, actually they already might have it. Yeah, so basically some rigs already have it, but you can have a display layer so you can turn off the other character you're not touching, so you don't accidentally select the other character's controls. So for this, you can just basically set a keyframe on everything, and then start posing. So again, I'm going to roll this down, so kind of like a squash here. And rotate the body here. I'm going to try to get his face somewhat visible, like at least some of the eye here. And then I'm going to have this part of the body twisting forward. So kind of create a nice line of action here. And again, I'm going to move the weight, whoops, this is the COG, weight over like this. Get the shoulder up, shoulder back. So bend the elbow. Again, I can make this a bit smaller. And again, don't be afraid to use the hand controls here, so you can get a free like curl. So it already makes a fist, which is nice. Some rigs don't do it properly. The Turtles rigs are usually pretty good if you guys are trying to do something simple. This arm will also flex a little bit, and I'll make a fist. So just select the 3 attributes here, make a fist here. And this you can't see very well, so I'm going to try to see if maybe it's better to lean more like this. And then pull the elbow back. Just so in camera I can kind of see where his other arm is, just for context. And again, I can pull the shoulder down a little bit, just kind of show. And I think I also want to make the front foot a little more forward, just so it's not so extreme. And I'll probably have to move Donatello a little closer, but we'll see. Yeah, I think that's a decent first pose. And for the face, you could just put a rough facial expression just to convey like the basic stuff that you want to show. Yeah, make sure you test the rig. That looks weird. So I'm gonna give an angry eyebrow. And some rigs, on their facial controls, they have a blink controller on when you select certain controllers, and like you can just turn the attribute to blink, which is really cool. And cheek controls, nose. So yeah, what I want, or what I'm looking for, is basically to get the lower eyelids up. So usually on the face here, you'll have something like that, but I think that's going to control the wrong one there. Yeah, so something like that. It's going to be hard with this kind of face. And then for the mouth, just something rough for like intention. And yeah, make sure you guys don't show the gums, because gums are bad. And yeah, it looks like I've made some tearing here. Something more like that. And then on top of that, make sure you guys have the eye direction aiming at where they're attacking. So something like that. You can usually aim it at the character with the eye control here, the aim eye. And then usually you're good to go. But sometimes for hookup scenarios or consistency, you might have to do it like off to the side and whatnot. And that will kind of come up in one of the final assignments. Okay, so I set a keyframe here. I'm thinking once I do the hip, I'm going to do the hip pose, because I'll do the in-betweens afterwards once I get the main key poses in, and then I can position Donatello where I actually need him to be. So I'm going to go back to my reference here. I'm going to look at the kick. So he's basically doing kind of like a shuffle step. I don't know if he's touching the wall. I think he might be. So I'm going to ignore that and just basically go for a different set of physics. But he does lunge forward a little bit, and then he's kicking up and then blocking. So we'll go back a bit to see. So again, if you guys are wondering how to do this kind of action, you can just get up and do it yourself. So I'm having my right leg back, and then he's basically stepping forward and then kicking. So if I'm going like one and then up, right? So basically I'm doing like a little shuffle step. So I'm stepping forward, and then if I'm trying to do it slowly, lunge forward, back leg drags back, and then you're doing using that momentum to bounce forward again and then kick. So, properly, hold on. So, back leg here, and then up, and then stepping through. So, obviously that wasn't the best kick, so that's why you do it in animation. So. Pretty much I'm going to find where that kick pose is, and then an in-between would basically be where the feet go. So let's say it takes, I'm just gonna guess, like 12 frames, let's say. Might need to be longer, might need to be shorter, just have to try it. And again, so the weight's gonna go here. Always start with the COG. And again, you can look at your reference here. So his body, it's hard to see, I think you guys can tell, but his leg is here, and it's like this because he's holding onto this beam for support. So obviously for balance, if you're just doing it without the support, the leg needs to be right underneath the weight, okay? And this is a pretty strong angle, straight leg kick here. And then the nice thing with this costume is you can kind of see the curve of the spine and this nice C-curve this way, right? And then obviously we're going to pose the arms a little bit cooler because he's kind of holding on to the bar here. And again, so I'm going to go back to this view here to do it. And you also have to keep in mind like the kind of characters you're using to pose out the action. So if you have a character that's like really big in your scene, but your character's really tiny, obviously things aren't going to match exactly, so you want to adjust accordingly, okay? So for example, like the turtles here, they have really big feet, like humongous feet if you look at it. So you're gonna have to adjust and be mindful of that. And I'm gonna have a bit of twist in the foot here just so there's a bit of balance. And I want the foot to be kind of like this. And again, do your best to make sure that there's no breaking in like the hips. So you can like rotate the hips like this a little bit. And then again, similar to the pose that we were looking at, you want to try to get a bit of a curve in the spine, like a C curve here. And then again, I might push it back here. And then the leg, you don't want to make sure it's overstretching. Just a little bit like this. And again, we're going to have the shoulders come up for the kick. Basically to show he's like flexing his arms to put as much power behind it. I'll try to see if I can get this arm. Yeah, I think I can't make it look cool there, so I'm just going to have the arm bent like this instead. So something more like that. And again, make sure the head, as best as you can, is looking at the target. And I want to make sure every part of the body is moving at least a little bit, just so it doesn't look dead when you go from pose to pose. I think that's pretty decent. And again, usually for the stuff like headbands and stuff like that, you don't have to animate them. Like if your character has it, I want you to use it, but that's going to come in during polish. So you guys don't need to pose it out until your blocking is basically ready to go into polish, okay? Because the thing is, if you pose it too early, you might change stuff subtly because it's basically going to follow what the character's doing. So if that changes at any point, then you're basically wasting time trying to animate it, okay? I want you guys to focus on broad strokes, strong poses, and readability of each action that you're doing, right? So if I go into 7 here, right? Pretty clear he's kicking him, right? Obviously Donatello is like static here, but looks like a bazooka actually. Okay, so now they have the kind of like where he's going to be hitting here. Also, one other thing too, before you start animating the camera, if you're only doing subtle movement, you kind of don't have to worry about it until you're doing polish. But what you can do in the meantime, so you don't accidentally move your camera, is you go to your rotate and highlight from translate, you right click on it and click lock selected. So now if you move in the viewport, you can't actually move around or do anything. So this kind of protects your camera for the meantime. Now I have my two poses here, but I did tell you guys that I wanted to have him kind of step forward. So since I built the pose already, I'm going to select the feet because they're IK and also the COG here. I'm going to go to my attribute editor here on the side, the channel box, and I'm going to click on Translate Z. So now what that means is that when I move forward, it's actually going to move forward. And I want to make sure that I'm in world space when I do this. Because now when I move forward, you see Translate Z is actually facing Donatello, right? So that means it makes it easy for me to move the character forward, just like that. So I'm guessing like this is basically going to be the distance that I do that little step I showed you guys, and then kick, okay? So the camera, in my mind, is going to basically follow a little bit and then go up to follow the action. And before we go any further, always save. Yeah, save every 10-15 minutes. Save you guys some work. Now, for you guys, I would recommend putting a pose in between to show like what steps you want to take. You don't have to have it physically lifting off the ground and whatnot. You can just have the feet sliding for now, just for blocking it out. But when you submit blocking, make sure you properly lift the legs. But just until you're figuring out the body mechanics and like the basic, like where the foot goes here, where the foot goes there, it'll be easier for you. Okay. Now I'll turn off Raph's controls and turn on Donatello's. So kind of the same idea as before. So I'm going to set a key here. I'm going to move him back a bit because basically I want to make sure wherever this hip pose is, I want it to be basically contacting. So I'll have it about here, I think. And I'll actually go back and delete this key. There we go. On my first frame. And if we go back to our reference, we can see, go back a little bit. So Liu Kang looks like, right before, he's like kind of gauging his opponent here. Kind of fitting for Donatello because he would like assess the situation more so than his brothers. But this one is more for like a stuntman thing. He's kind of like not really participating here. He's kind of just waiting for the kick and, you know, blocking early because they want to be safe. Right? You may not notice it when it's playing, but you can kind of tell when you're frame by framing. So I'm going to have a bit more aggression in that kind of pose. So I'm going to contrast the opposite of Raphael here. So let's see what will look best. Yeah, I think we'll do this here. So we'll do the other foot forward. And we'll kind of do like what we did with the run cycle. We're going to do a stretch pose here. So what I'll basically have him do is he'll be mid-jump or starting to take off, and then he'll get interrupted mid-air and get kicked, and he'll have to block it, okay? And then maybe I'll make the kick so strong that he falls over from that block. So you want to add some roll to the foot. And again, like before with the run cycle, you want to make sure the leg is pretty much straight, like just before it straightens out perfectly. And again, you want to aim the intention forward, so you want to change the rotation here. So basically you have a straight line kind of leading from the toe all the way straight up. Question? No? Okay. And again, you want to make sure you get as much of the face visible as possible. You try to go for like, you cheat it with a 3/4 view, just so you can see both eyes. And let's also make Donnie a bit determined. Yeah, so these move his eyes. And let's try using a bit of the squint here. Oh, I don't know why the eyes are breaking there. Maybe we'll do just a bit. That's okay. Probably do this maybe, and then, okay, yeah, so you can shape that after. Yeah, so you can roughly pose it. If it is breaking, some rigs have these like little controls around like the geo or like the cloth, and you can just fix it by like pulling it up a little bit. So I'm just going to pose it like this for now and leave it in this kind of state. So pose the mouth out. And again, you can just do it roughly at during your first pass, but for blocking, when you submit, make sure you do like the final face that you're going to have, okay? I'm going to try to use the face, because these kind of controls here in the face group, usually they're good for getting like a rough pose of what you want, and then you can go into the face itself and like kind of enhance and exaggerate that shape a little bit. So I'm basically trying to create a bit of a more interesting shape here. There we go, something like that. And we'll squint this side eye here and make this screen right eye a bit bigger, so you can see it creates like a nice asymmetrical look. I'll pose the spine here. And let's have Donnie do a punch. So let's have him twisting this way. So make sure his global is set to 10. Some characters have it on by default, some have it off. Yeah, so his arms are on. So we're going to twist the body to make sure that the front arm here is going to be more forward. You know what, actually, we'll do the other one instead. I think this will be cooler. Pretty much my intent is to have both of them attempt to strike each other, but then Raph is the one that's successful, because I'm biased. And again, nicely you can just make an easy fist. So again, just roughly posing out the arms. And as you guys are posing with your ideas, just make sure you focus on the broad strokes. Don't worry about polishing the 5-10 frames that you have of like the COG transitioning to another pose. Like, don't polish that too much. Focus on the big key poses, because that's going to convey and sell the body mechanics in your shot. Because if those are strong, then the in-betweens are going to be very, very easy to do, because you've already done the work and planning and knowing what step goes where the body is moving here, right? All that sort of stuff. Again, I'm going to make sure the eyes are looking at the target here, so probably have to move it forward and then down. So I'll just check here. So yeah, it kind of looks like he's looking at Raph. There you go, something like that. And again, try to make sure you think about the silhouette. So if you can, try to make the other parts of the body visible, even just a little bit like this. So now you can see the back elbow here. And even that, I think that looks better. So they're showing some good twist. Probably exaggerate the line of action more. Sorry, this one here. There you go, something more like that. And again, make sure when you finish your pose, just set a key on everything and save. Basically, once you do a key pose, save it out. Or if you do half of it, save it out, just so you don't miss anything. Now, as a first frame, I think this is pretty clear. You're showing the intention, so Raph looks like he's getting prepared for something, and then Donnie looks like he's going for a strike of some kind. Now, it kind of looks like, now this is why you want to check all sides. So it is pretty straight on here, but in camera, because I have such a low focal length, it kind of looks like Donatello is gonna miss, right? Can you guys see that? Does that look obvious to you guys? So what you can do, you can cheat it a little bit. Since I've only done one pose, I can move Donnie over a little bit, and then that way it looks a little more like they're in line with each other. That's just moving the global controller here. Okay, and now basically I'm going to go forward to the moment where they strike each other. So frame 12 is where I have it. So this is how you do choreography. You're having them both basically be in sync for this. So I'm putting Ref in the pose where he strikes because I'm going to have Donnie be interrupted by the attack. So I'm going to pose basically the extreme that Donatello is going to get to before he transitions to an impact pose. Kind of like when you guys did the block animation. I'm going to get him to that pose where he's like blocking the hit, but he's not going to be impacted yet by the effect of the kick, okay? So 12 frames is quite a bit, so he'll probably have stepped down. I'll have him like step down and then punch, and then basically right before he punches, that's when he's going to get hit, block the attack here. So I'll just pose down the COG and the feet just to get like roughly the placement here. And again, this is going to look slow because you need more in-betweens here, so that's totally fine. And if you guys don't know this already, if you go into your outliner and you click on the character you want to work on, and like the ground plane, for example, you can hit Shift-I, and you can just hide the other character in whatever viewport you're hovering over. So cinematically, I want to see both of them as I'm doing it, but then in perspective, it's easier to pose if I just turn up Raffer a little bit. I'll move this over here so you can see. Moving him a little closer. We're going to straighten out the spine here a little bit more. And since my pose before has like this kind of angle, like this, with the head, I'm going to have it turn the other way. So usually between two key poses, especially in action, you want to have contrasting shapes and angles, right? It just creates appeal, makes it look more dynamic. You guys probably saw me write that in some of your shots on Sync Sketch. And he's pretty much blocking here, so I'm going to put the arm up. But again, I don't want to block his face as much as I can. Just as like I mentioned before, if you can show the face, try to show the face, because usually it connects with the audience a lot more if you can see how they're feeling. You can usually tell if a film or show you're watching is pretty bad if they never really show how the character is feeling during important parts of the action. And again, try not to break the shoulders, so like if you see this kind of angles and skinning, do your best, but I can always help you mitigate some of that. Again, now that I turn this out, I can actually see better, and I fixed the skinning, 2 for 1. Again, same with the block here. So in the workflow I'm doing right now, I'm kind of going pretty fast from planning to already blocking in Maya. You guys might need to take a day or two to like actually plan it out with like thumbnails or rough poses in Maya, or you performing the action yourself roughly, just to kind of understand like how the movement should happen. So if you guys need help doing it, or you want to verify like, is this a good reference? Should I use this? Let me know by the end of class today and I can come over and take a look, give you a thumbs up or not. Choosing reference is definitely a skill. Like, it's not going to be something you guys can just do easily at the beginning. It's going to take time, trial and error, and experimentation. Basically, try not to let the reference be a rule that you follow. Try to have it be just like a suggestion, and try to figure out like how is this different than like the characters I'm using versus like when I'm animating to, versus like the performance I give, you know, to see the body mechanics and whatnot. Cool. So I have that pose now. So pose here. I'll do another pose on Donnie just before to show punch that he's about to throw, and then basically I'll probably try it 3 frames or 4. So again, I'll copy that foot because I want to use that planted foot for where it is here, and I'll have the COG go forward and down, and I'll basically start showing the twist. So what you can do, select the upper body, unselect the COG because I already moved that, and then you can just copy that first pose so you get closer to what the punch is going to be. And again, since this is attack, you want to show as much drag and build up to it as possible. So as much twist here, so you can see the arm is coming up, right? The eye direction still looking at ref, and you saw the COG is moving forward. And then you want the arm back a bit. Because especially in the pose, like the in-between right before the attack is going to swing into the hip pose, you really want to make sure that the audience can see the limb, like the arm, the leg that's coming, just for readability's sake. So what I've actually accidentally created is an in-between for this punch. So I'll actually copy this over and do it about frame 6 here. And again, every once in a while, when you have a bunch of poses, just go into your graph editor and set it to auto. Just so you don't get the wonkiness and you can actually hold the pose. Alright, so now I'll go back and adjust frame 9 so it's actually swinging forward. So, Andres, what happens when we swing from a punch? What does our body do? A little what? Yeah, it's going to go forward. And we're going to twist as well. So we're going to twist into it. And if you want to put power into anything, you have to twist the body. If you don't, then you're not really going to get the power there. So I twist the spine first. Get the arm. Actually, I think I selected. Yeah, if you can't see the arm, you can always press 4 and find it. I think that's the one there. I want this punch to be pretty much straight. Something like that. Yeah, so that's really fast. So that one we kind of gimbaled already, so what I can do is delete this and then just set a key again just to properly make sure it's posed. Okay. So basically what I did, if you guys are noticing, when you pose out your character, I'll move the graph editor for a sec. So you see I did the Euler filter on the arm, but you see the arm is back here. It should rotate to the front going counterclockwise, right? But it goes the other way. It pops forward here and then goes like that. Really, really awkward, right? Even though I did Euler filter, what can I do? So if you go into your graph editor, if you select the main rotation, that's like pretty jarring. So pretty much if you look at the rotate Z, this is the one that's swinging it around like that. So what you can do is if you go into your graph editor, select that attribute, so the rotate Z, what you can do is just check in perspective or your camera and basically move it up so that it goes around in the direction that you want to go, and keep moving it until it gets to that pose that you wanted it to be. So if I can check here, yeah. And now, when you scrub forward, now it goes the proper direction. You guys see the difference there? Yeah, so this is a good way to avoid something called gimbal lock, if you haven't heard that already. Gimbal lock is very bad and tough to deal with it. If you don't do this, and you have that odd rotation, what you have to do to fix it is between 6 and 9, where your key poses are, you have to do a key basically in between on 7 or 8. And even then, you might still need another keyframe after that, which you don't want to do. You want to have as few keys as possible just to convey what's happening. So I've only done the upper body here. It looks pretty stiff, also probably too fast. I might not even use this whole punch pose, to be honest. So I'm going to have the body go forward. Stepping through. And yeah, I might actually do frame 8, just so it's a bit less. And then just copy it over to frame 9, and then delete frame 8. So now that he can go from about to punch to blocking right away at the last second, because Donatello is fast. And this timing here, I'm not worrying about like from 1 to 6 here, because we can do stuff to finesse it with an in-between. Let's give one pose to Raph. So again, turn off Donatello's stuff, turn on Raph's again. Select everything, and let's go halfway, so about 6. And we basically need a pose to show like this little step that he did. So what you can do is copy frame 1 here, just so you kind of get the feet placement that you want. And then again, you can select the feet, COG, and again, make sure you're set to global, and you can just move it forward. So you can kind of get how it's going to go. And since he's going to be kicking and going up, again, I keep telling you guys about contrast and having something go in the opposite direction before the other way. So you can have it go down to anticipate here. And again, you can have the front leg go forward because it's going to do like a little shuffle here. And pretty much for this pose, I'm going to do a bit of a roll on the foot. And if we're treating this, if he's going down, can anyone tell me what that means if I'm going down in this pose right before the hit? It was something you guys did in your run cycle. It starts with an S. Yeah. So again, we're going to enhance it by moving the spine. Again, go to the front to select it. Just basically compress. And again, push it too far, further than you think it should be. And then if you have to tone it down, you guys can do that trick I showed you. And again, also move the arms. I think the sooner you guys treat animation like drawings, even though it's done in CG space, the easier it'll be to convey the simple stuff. Because once you kind of nail this workflow down, this is pretty much how you do everything complicated as well. It's just there's more pieces to the action. but foundationally you're doing the same thing. You're still squashing, you're still stretching, you're still doing appealing poses, right? And again, since I'm posing rough, I'm going to move this to the side. And again, make sure the weight, that's why you always check all sides. So you see my weight is really off on Raf because I've been posing him like crazy. So you can just shift them over slightly so he's a little more balanced. And then also move him forward more, just because I want in camera view for the weight to be more over that front leg here. Okay. And then again, set a key when you're satisfied. So it's kind of working. We are missing that in between I talked about before, where we need to go in between 6 and 12 and show some power and build up for that kick, right? So let's just do it now. So we'll go, let's say frame 9. Let's go 10. Let's try 2 frames, see if that's too fast. So again, you want the balance to be fully there. And this is where you want the leg to basically drag back, and then it's going to rise up really strong and kick him really hard. So again, same idea as I mentioned to some of you guys before. It's all about the shapes that you make. Like you guys saw with the Sub-Zero footage, when he's doing that backflip, that line of action, that's going to show power and contrast when it connects with the target. Or the victim, as Victor likes to say. And again, involve the whole body. Anytime you do a pose, guys, anytime, involve the whole body in it, even if it's just a subtle adjustment. And again, this looks crazy, right? Like super stretched. But just try it. Does it feel good? Is it too much? If it's too much, you can always adjust. If you don't go far enough, then I'm going to keep telling you, like, push it more, push it more, push it more. And again, you want to make sure, so if you move the head, if the neck is kind of broken, so you can just move the neck a little bit, just so it's a little less like that. There we go. Again, you want to try to see the arm if you can. Try to have a good silhouette. And so and you can also check like to determine what kind of in-between you want on like a certain limb, for example. If you look at the screen left arm, it's kind of doing the same thing. It's kind of in the same posture here. So I'll give it a pose that's a little bit different here. I'll have it be dragging back a little bit. So almost, not straight, but almost. Just give it a bit of variety here. I'll probably have it be a bit down. So I'm pushing it down a little bit just to kind of exaggerate and kind of focus this these parallel lines I've created with the arm and the leg here dragging back. So basically what that means, if you follow the lines, that's where the kick is going to basically go. Okay? And then again, set a key on everything. So look at that, kicking. So obviously I'm missing the step here. So basically in polish, or even probably for the blocking pass if you wanted to, I'm going to plant the front foot sooner just so that it gets there, then the weight can go on it, so then he can lift up and kick. So right now it's kind of happening at the same time, which is bad, but for blocking, that's totally fine. The only thing I'd probably add for blocking, if we can get to it, is a pose in between 1 and 6, probably at frame 3, to show like the front foot getting there first and then the back leg dragging. So it looks like a little quick step before the kick, okay? So you know what, let's do that now. All right, so I've set a key on everything. Frame 3. So again, I don't have to do full animation of him like lifting his foot and stepping, that sort of thing. But I do want the foot to get there first, the front foot. So over 3 frames, I might need to change it, but I'll have it go here. And then I'll use the COG going upward and forward. And guys, the reason I'm going forward and up, because guess what? We did a squash at frame 6, right? So again, I'm going up, down, up, right? That's kind of the basic movement of this. Because if you guys get the core right of what you're animating and like your key poses, then the rest of the action will flow pretty naturally when you start adding your bends in your spine and your drag and that sort of thing. And then also I'll do the front or the back leg here. So it's kind of buried in the ground. You can't see it in camera, but I can tell it's doing that. So I'm going to just bend it so it's not completely stretched. And again, the foot is a little wobbly here, so I'm going to just double check that everything is set to auto. There we go. So it might be too fast on the front foot, so in polish I'll probably adjust it so the foot is like has enough time to recover. So maybe I'll have it like get there at frame 4, so I can do that now. That's pretty easy. Basically I can just move this keyframe over 1 frame. Any questions so far, you guys? Am I going too fast? No? Hopefully I didn't crash Maya just now. Hopefully it didn't crash.
I have something that might help.
Yeah? What is it?
When it's hanging. It's I'm not sure if it will, and it looks like a virus.
It looks like a virus. I thought you were against piracy.
No, but the whole it's a Maya crasher, and it just like when Maya's hanging, like you can't do anything with it. It's
Yeah.
like not registering that it's hanging. Crash. You double click the program.
Mm-hmm.
You control click the program you want, like Maya that you want to.
Ah, I see.
I guess crash, and then it'll crash. It'll give you the crash report, and
Yeah.
it'll hopefully also make an auto save.
Ah, interesting. That's pretty cool. I will wait a
Sometimes it hangs so bad that it doesn't like.
Yeah.
Auto-save.
Sometimes you can go to like the control panel and like threaten to close it, and then sometimes it doesn't. Let's see if I. No? I'm gonna click it. Thinks I'm bluffing, so.
You did just say it, so.
I did, right? I'll give it like 15 more seconds. I can just close. I think I saved just before. Hopefully. You guys get this so far, right? Like workflow is pretty standard, pretty similar to what you guys have been doing. Basically, you're just focusing on the cinematic action and making it as appealing and as entertaining as possible. Okay. So you should be using your reference, your live action reference, as detail of like how the physics might work or like the body mechanics, but enhance it, make it better, make it your own, right? Yeah, I think I'll threaten to end it and actually do it because this is just stuck. It's a lot of memory. Damn. Sorry about that, you guys. I think it's loading. There we go. Okay.
Can we ask you about like whether some things are okay now?
Yeah, why not? Let's just open up. Yeah, any questions about your guys' footage that you're picking? Yeah, Ikea?
Do they use power slappers as a reference?
Huh? Sorry?
Power slappers?
Power slap? You can, yeah, totally.
Yeah, just wondering.
Yeah, as long as it's live action. Yeah,
Like it's- yeah, okay, cool.
totally fine. Yeah, you can slap the crap out of whatever rig you hate.
That's exactly
You can slap, yeah, whatever you want.
Slap the crap out of Manny.
Yeah, I would say Manny, but you need a face, so technically no. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a fight scene, right?
No, it does not have to be a fight scene. It could be Mario jumping on a Goomba for all intents and purposes. Yeah. You could have someone tripping a grandma walking down the street, for example. Can be non-violent, can be silly.
Yeah, and then you have like red and white like lights flashing
Yeah.
for the ambulance.
Yeah. Okay, so hopefully this is still okay. And yeah, don't worry about adding like VFX or anything like that. If you just try to get the story of what you're trying to show in your blocking pass with the key poses. And if you have time and polish, then you can add stuff to like further enhance what's already there. Let's see if this works. Oh, it's coming to life. Let's see. Okay, there we go. Now we're golden. Let's turn off this. We'll just get a few more poses in and we can take a break, okay? And I can come over and take a look at your guys' stuff. Or any questions? Yeah, so I didn't get my pose from before, so yeah, I just have to go back and pose it. So frame 3. Also, if I didn't mention this before, make sure you turn off polygon selections at the top here so you don't accidentally select your ground plane and key it or anything like that. And if you notice on my screen, I usually turn this on. So you see right now when you guys scrub, on mine here, the perspective view is moving, but not the main camera that you're trying to look at, right? If you want this changed, which I recommend you do because it's very annoying, you go into your preferences at the bottom here, the gear with the person running, go down all the way to time slider, and then go all the way down to the bottom, and where it says update view, instead of active, click all, and then hit save. And now when you scrub, now both of them will play at the same time. I'll show that again. So animation preferences, this little guy here at the bottom, you go down to time slider, highlight time slider, and then you go all the way down to playback, and then under update view, make sure it's set to all, okay? And then hit save. All right, so I'm gonna go to frame 6, copy that foot, paste it here. Oh, my hotkeys are not working. Ugh. Paste it here. And then again, since we're having some stretching, we're gonna make the COG go higher and forward. Bit up. And then because we don't want too much stretch on the back leg here, you can see it's pretty much stretching fully. So just try doing a bit of the roll to kind of lessen it, so it's like on his toe here. see if that looks better. Yeah, so it's kind of sliding right now, and again, this just cause to go into our graph editor, just set it to auto. There we go. I'll play it a few times just to kind of see how it feels. I'll move this over. Yeah, so again, the first part might be a bit too fast, so we can always change it for RAF. But the main rough poses are there. And again, we can enhance this by adding some drag in the spine, so then we don't have to do it later. So get a bit of tilt. And then again, add a bit of drag to the head, so just counter rotate it so it's going the opposite direction. So you have like this little up and down. Or you can do it the other way if you want them to like be a bit more sneaky about it. And then same, we can go further, shoulders, same idea, just moving it a little bit. And then we're dragging the wrist, going this way, and also dragging that forearm just a bit. Now it's a little more fluid. And you can see the screen left arm is a little static. So again, same thing as this arm. Add a bit of drag to it. And then drag in the wrist. Now it's a bit more lively. Let's see what that looks like. That's better. Let's save. Okay, let's change Donatello's expression for the block pose here. Basically just want to change his expression to be something different, so it looks more like he's actually feeling something different from blocking versus like being ready to strike. So I'll close the mouth so he's doing like a solid frown. Just something like this, maybe showing a bit of teeth, which is fine. And again, since he was more like furrowed, I can have it the other way around. Show him a bit like scared or something. Because usually if you build one good facial expression, you can kind of use some of it for the next one sometimes. You usually want to have a little bit of the previous expression in it as well, just to show like a slight change in feeling, and then you can go for an extreme for another expression. Okay. And then I think the last two poses we need for this basic animation is we're going to have the pose where, we'll go back to the reference here. Ah, come on. Back here. So we want that little like double tap so he blocks the first one and then gets kicked again. So it's quite subtle, right? But basically, because it's quite subtle in the reference, we want to amp it up for animation. So during this kick here, we'll have like a few frames to like settle the animation itself. So like a moving hold basically. So basically for like the impact to affect Donatello's posture and balance and like move him over screen right a little bit. And then also for Raph to like push through, kind of like what I showed in the first example with Ong Bak. So I'll just put a keyframe just to hold both of them, just so I don't accidentally ruin anything. So basically the contact point, you want to have a keyframe on both of them in that pose. So then when you move them over during that, you kind of keep them in posture and you can kind of animate them together, right? Because if you animate them separately, it's going to be really difficult to go back and forth between them, figuring out the contact and the motion and the amount, that sort of thing. So you want to do these kind of moments together. So So now that I have that, I'm going to turn off Donatello, select Raph again. There we go. And after this, I'll do like, I don't know, 5 frames, because this is not a massive attack. But I'm going to have him go up a little bit. So pretty much we're going to antic the other mini kick. So we're going to try to get a pose that kind of demonstrates that. And again, this is a little crazy in posture, so you want to make sure it's balanced. He's probably going to be a bit forward from kicking. We want to get this big boot. I'll kind of do it on an angle here. And you can see I'm kind of crashing into the arm, so let's change that. So we'll adjust the spine first to see if we can kind of make it work. And again, we'll make a different contrasting shape here. So a reverse C-curve in the spine. And I'll actually try to get the arm visible here. See if I can get it down. It's a little bit better. And to make this arm a bit different, I'm going to have this one come up instead. So I'm going to show a bit of compression here. And again, I'm kind of moving, the neck is kind of broken, so I'm going to select the neck again. And just move it so we can kind of build a better shape here. So again, nothing too crazy. I'm kind of maintaining most of the posture, right? But you can see the difference here. So the spine is changing, the weight's kind of moving over, and I'll probably move the weight a little bit more. Just a bit to sell this. And I can go down a little bit too. Go down a bit more actually. And then I can probably lower the leg here, just like that. So basically this will antic. And I might actually, just so we maintain balance, just a bit over, just a bit more. There we go. So something like that for the anticipation. And the antic we can hold for like, since it's not too big, we can do it for like 3 frames. So I'll just set a key for reference. So I know to do that in polish. And then we'll do another kick to push through. What we can do actually is copy this frame 16 one here, just to get most of the pose there. Because the kick is kind of going to be a similar pose, but we're going to tweak it so it looks quite different, like in the arms and whatnot. So we'll go ahead for how fast this should be. So let's say another 5. And again, I'm just guessing here. You don't have to actually put it with this timing that I'm doing. Whoa, careful. Copy. Paste. There you go. Okay. So yeah, make sure you make it look different just so I know you didn't copy it directly. So again, so since the arm is down here, you can kind of make sure it's also kind of obeying that. So we'll instead of having like an upward bend in the shoulders, we'll have a downward bend instead, just to give it some contrast. And again, I say contrast a lot because really it's a foundational skill for animation. But also when you're doing anything asymmetrical or appealing. Actually, that looks kind of cool, so I'm going to exaggerate that a little bit. I'm just trying to show the arm as much as possible. And because the arms are like this, so I'll probably change the back arm to be different, so I have a bit more close. It's kind of hard because this shell is so big. So you can do something like this. Usually when you're kicking, you guys, if you do this kind of pose with your arm, you're usually doing it for balance. Usually because you're trying to stick it out there to cover the balance of your being on one leg. Again, try to move the head just a bit, just to keep it alive so that you get some naturalistic movement already just with a few poses. And he's thrusting it down. That looks decent. And again, we'll set a reference key to show like the hang time, like of the impact, kind of like before. And we'll just go ahead. So from here to here, about 4 frames. Let's do a bit more. Save. There we go. And yeah, we need one more pose just for the recovery. So pretty much we'll end in a cool pose where Raph is like victorious after he knocks him down, kind of like what we saw with Ong back. And yeah, once we do this pose, then we can take a quick break. So yeah, I'll just set a key at 40. It's probably too fast, but let's see what what happens in the reference. We can maybe kind of see some pose we can use. No, not very cool. That's actually not bad. This pose here, you can do something like this. So even within your reference, if you're not using it for your shot, you can take a pose and just push it, right? It's kind of straight up and down, so I'm going to bend like the line of action here a little more exaggerated, more of a C curve probably. And then really push out the angle of like which shoulder is higher than the other. But I'll kind of keep the posture here. So his arm's close to his chest, his back arm, and then his front arm is kind of like spread out wide. A little Bruce Lee inspired, I would say. So let's save before we go on. And after this kick here, we're going to assume he's going to go forward because he's pushing forward. He's doing like a push kick kind of thing, and then that's going to knock Donnie off camera. And so when we go forward, we're going to move the body. And then as we move that body, we're going to get the foot down. And you can just zero out the rotations. That kind of usually helps. But it depends on how much you've rotated already. You might not want to do that. So you can just plant it. Oops. And let's rotate him forward just so that for the last pose we can kind of have him a bit visible. And same thing with the back foot, we'll rotate it forward. Again, we'll use in-betweens eventually to make it look smooth. So basically the foot will plant, the front foot will plant, and then the back foot will spin forward, right? So obviously right now it's happening at the same time, but you just basically need 1.5 in-betweens to make it work. And we'll just pretend Donnie's not there because he's going to be gone. So. So again, I'm going to show some twist in the spine here. Go to the front. And again, I'm going to kind of cheat chest a little bit just so you can kind of see it. So again, it's not looking exactly like the pose we're taking from Liu Kang, but we're kind of using it as the same idea. So I think I'll do maybe this arm. We'll try this arm up. You know what, maybe the other one. So we'll make this arm the one that's almost straight. And again, we have these nice finger controls to give us our hand pose. So yeah, we can adjust it for polish, but right now it's kind of giving the intention we need. And we'll have the head visible. the eyes over. Yeah, I might actually do the other arm. Because then that way, if I have this arm, it's going to block the other arm. So I'm going to do it the other way instead. And again, like as you're posing out the body, you can break from it. Like if you get an idea as you pose it out, you're like, actually this would look better. Actually this would look better. Don't be afraid to make something different yourself. Make sure we put this in a fist because we changed our mind, and this is the one that's going to go out. And we'll exaggerate the shoulder here, so this shoulder is clearly higher than the other one. So we'll find where that is. Rotate it down. He's kind of grabbing him in the bad area, so ignore that. I feel like Raph would do that though. He's that kind of character. And yeah, this foot, I noticed this in some of your guys' animations. Make sure like when the leg is like this, your knee and foot are basically broken. So always try to add a little bit of a roll just to kind of soften that that bend. Okay. Raph it doesn't work as well on Raph, but most rigs that are better proportion would look better. And yeah, if we hide Donnie, kind of see what that pose looks like. Yeah, it looks pretty decent. Yeah, let's do that. Alright guys, you can take a break, come back just before 8, and then we can resume, finish off the demo.